Coloring crypto.
Dan, Howie Coins, the SEC put out their own website, HowieCoin.com.
Yeah, which is funny. You sent me the link to Howie Coins, and I went on and I'm like, oh, pre-ICO sale. This sounds pretty typical, like everything else. It's a token sale. Learn more, go down, don't miss it. And then I started smelling around a little bit. Officially registered with the U.S. government, will trade on SEC compliant exchange where you can buy and sell them for profit. And I'm like, wait a minute. Started reminding me of our April Fool's joke.
See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, we did this for April Fools and did not get enough love, but we already did the SEC joke. And but it's really useful. I mean, it goes through all the things you cannot do and people are still doing, where it's got like the tiers, like the super discounts for early buying. And then I think the kicker at the end was their celebrity endorsements.
Yeah.
But so folks out there, we'll put it in the show notes. HowieCoins.com is an example from the SEC themselves of what never to do, or if you want to get put in jail by the SEC, what to do. Welcome to Coloring Crypto, folks. We hope you're kind of enjoying our new format. Dan and I are discussing the crypto news using the newsletter, The Bit Daily, as kind of our source. So Dan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Game. How you doing?
Right. I'm doing great, man. So from the Bit Daily, what were the news items that you wanted to discuss today?
Well, I was going to discuss some of the items, but today we've got a pretty special guest, the founder of The Bit.
Yep, that's right. We've got Erica Amatori, the co-founder of The Bit, on the line out in New York at the Consensus Conference.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get her on.
Let's bring her on. So you're out in New York, Erica, is that right?
Correct.
So I wanted to hear from you just in general, how it is out in New York. You've got the Consensus Conference happening out there. Should we start with that, or should we start with the latest newsletter episode and what's been coming up in that you guys highlighted in the news?
I think we should start with Consensus 2018. It's been a crazy week. People from all over the world are in New York right now. And as you all know, New York is a very high energy place. So to have even more people, it ends up being a really fun, but also very exhausting week. There's tons of amazing companies that are just leaders in the blockchain space right now, such as VeChain, such as Cosmos, such as Signal, the list goes on, right? Ripple, everybody's here. So it's been quite a week, quite a networking experience. So it's been really, really fun. And the Bit has been kind of spreading news around with Consensus here. So that's been great. And yeah.
So are people treating you, I mean, I'm sure it's probably nice, you're probably getting media access. I'm curious about that, but are people treating you like as a magnet for like, hey, I want to, announce my ICO or promote myself, or kind of how are you being treated out there because you're part of the Bit?
Yeah. So essentially the Bit is almost like an influencer platform at this point, but it's soon to be, and we'll talk about this later, but it's turning into more of a community platform. And of course, anytime you mention, I'm a news company for blockchain specifically, people's eyes light up, right? But something special about the Bit is we only write what we actually care about and think what would benefit investors in this space, basically. So we have a huge benefit of curating the best news, curating what people want to hear and what people want to read. So just meeting a lot of the companies that I have written about, that the Bit has highlighted and will highlight in the future, is very, very cool.
Okay, I'm curious. So I have, since I've been involved in the blockchain and cryptocurrency, I have not been to New York. But in my past life, I've spent lots of time in New York. I love it. I'm curious, I went to a conference, the Start Engine ICO conference in Santa Monica a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine described it as half of the people in there are geniuses and the other half are like used car salespeople.
Yes, I agree with
So,
that.
so yeah, as you're cruising around, like, what's your sense of? I mean, just in general, you've said this before, you've written this before in the bit. I think we all kind of are noting like how much noise there is in the crypto space, and how do you separate the signal from the noise? Like at the conference, what's that experience been like?
Yeah, so that's what the bit is all about. Just to recap for people that don't know much about the bit, by the way, it's thebitdaily.com if anyone wants to check it out. So basically, what we do is make sure that you don't get all of the noise in this space, that you're not getting those ICO scams. And that's something that the SEC is really working towards. And you see a lot of regulatory issues in the space right now and developments as well. So it's really a gray area, but it's also very interesting to watch this whole industry grow. Um, as for how you curate that at consensus or conferences or anywhere you go, right, at meetups, my favorite question to ask is, what projects are you following right now? What projects are your favorite? Because most likely, if people don't know what they're talking about, they'll say, they'll either hesitate for a really long time, or they'll say like just Bitcoin, and that's not a project really. I mean, it is, but not really. So I think that's the best question to really weed out people that really know and what they're talking about and follow the space, versus people that are just there, like you said, to kind of beat a dead horse and hype something up that they don't know about. But that's really what we're trying to solve, right? The bit is simplifying and condensing news so anyone can read it. So the newbies in the space can read it. So the experts can gain value out of it. So that's what we're really trying to do, is provide on-ramp to something that's complex and provide transparency into something that people don't understand, because the education right now in the space is not very good. Or it's good, but it's written by technical people, and a lot of people don't understand where software developers are coming from. So we're here to close that gap.
So I'm subscribed to the bit, and I also have it bookmarked. I have thebitdaily.com/news bookmarked, so I go straight to the kind of the updated stuff. But here's what I like about the bit is you have it kind of, this fun little marketing thing where it's like a couple of short sentences called like the bit, which is like the facts of what happened. The most recent one is this Coinbase is literally exploding. They're adding institutional suite, but then you guys give the bigger picture and you kind of provide the color commentary, and just my own. That's the value here, is like giving a sense of like, why does this matter, and giving some insight there. We'll get back to consensus in New York, because there's lots more to talk about with that. But one of my main questions is, how much time does it take to come up with this analysis, and how do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a team. So we have a writer that's based out in Austin. What usually our process looks like is, I'm the one that always stays up to date with crypto news in general. So I'm on Reddit. I'm on literally every single subreddit. I'm on Cointelegraph. I'm on CoinDesk. I'm on CNBC. So I'm really just stalking the news. And I'll usually pick the three top stories, because that's what we do, the three top stories that are most either valuable or interesting, because like you said, there's a lot of noise out there. And I'll hand those stories off to him to condense and simplify and add a little sass and fun to it as well. And that's why some people are calling us the skim of crypto, mainly because we have fun with it and we make it simple for people to read, but we don't lose any of the value that the experts would actually want to gain from the article. So we're taking out the fluff.
So in that process, it's kind of like are you throwing, when you kind of pick these three news articles, are you kind of throwing a couple like angles at the writer, or your writer is really coming up with that himself?
Yeah, so when I first started the bit, I was actually doing all the writing, so it was my voice. So when we hired a writer, it took a while to basically train him in the voice that, in the brand, right? The bit is a huge brand. I think that going a little off topic for a sec, as I have a huge marketing background. So I believe that no matter how saturated a space is, if no one is good at branding, or if there's no top brand in the space, it doesn't matter. You can add another player, and if their brand is good, they can dominate all of those other news sites or companies easily. And so the bit is really focused around good design, good branding, having an actual personality. So it takes a while to form that personality, and it's still developing. We're still trying to figure out kind of, if you could describe the bit as a person, who would it be? We think the bit would not be silly, but witty, stuff like that. So like, I do believe that overall, it's a point of contendency of taking information, condensing it, and making it readable for everyone out there. And I kind of lost point of your main question, I think.
No, I mean, this is great. Like, because I listened to a different podcast you did, and you talked a lot about the lack of really good brands in this space, but you talked about that as a huge opportunity. So let me throw this back at you. At Consensus, the Consensus conference, which has been going on, I guess, the last 3 days in New York, whose brand were you impressed by? Just branding. Who did you think did a great job?
Um, I really like Cosmos, and they're kind of an internet of blockchains. They're really redefining things, and I like them as a project or company. Moreover, I think they're really developer friendly. They're trying to be scalable, which is really hard in the space right now. So I think they did branding really well. If you go on their website, I also really just love their website, everything to their colors, to their language. So I would pick that brand to check out. Another one that I really think is cool is VeChain. Their website is incredible. And I don't know who their website developer is, but shout out to him or her. I have gone through it almost like over 100 times, and their website's incredible. Their brand's incredible. What they offer is incredible. So those were the two brands that really stuck out to me.
Did either of those guys like sponsor parties, or who is sponsoring all the parties and the main events at the conference?
There are a lot of companies that sponsor parties at the conference. I think there's at least 20 different parties every single night of Consensus. I actually went to a Cosmos party the other day. I don't know about VeChain, but I'm sure they did. So there's tons. I mean, there's a list of companies that threw parties. I think everybody and their mother did.
I have not been to really any of these like multi-day conferences at all. Like, I was talking to some folks after the big Puerto Rico conference last month
Oh
or
yes,
2 months
crazy
ago.
PR.
So tell me, like, what is the culture like in the crypto sort of like late night scene? Are deals happening at 2 a.m? Is it like, is that where you need to be to kind of meet the right people, or is it kind of just are all the used cars people, whatever? Those are the ones that are struggling, or just like, what's your sense of like, I don't know, does the culture party, or what's your sense of that?
First of all, I want to start by saying the community is extremely friendly.
Yeah.
Well, they're not exclusive. I mean, they are exclusive, but like at the same time, they'll help you learn if you want to learn and you're willing to, and you're not shilling things, right? So I think the community is extremely friendly, extremely inclusive. That's what I was trying to say, not exclusive. It's a great community, and that's something that the Bit is actually launching a community platform next month, and so we're going to be curating some of the best people to put on our platform for that reason. But going back to the deal part, yeah, deals happen whenever, right? There's crypto people go hard. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people out there have made a lot of money off of altcoins trading, everything. So the parties are really, really fun. They're really, really crazy sometimes. Sometimes they're not. It really depends on who you're with. But point being, love the community, and think that it's just a bunch of hard workers that really want to revolutionize the space and industries across the board.
I completely agree in terms of a lot of the welcoming energy. I moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles like 5 months ago, and as soon as I got here, there was like crypto. I was invited on crypto hikes, and it was like 30, 40 people all hiking up into all with this in common, and it was like a really awesome way to meet people. But it was anybody was welcome. It was a really cool thing. But along those lines, it's also interesting to me. It does seem like there's a little bit of cliquishness, or sort of like tribes within different kind of like mentalities of like people that want to build altcoins on EOS versus like Ethereum or something. Like, did you notice kind of like any breakouts like that?
The community is pretty small when you think about it. I think everybody knows everyone. And I also think that you're not in a clique ever. You can go to one company and talk to them, and then go to another and talk to them. And everybody's just trying to learn off of each other. Everybody's just trying to make this work. Everybody's just trying to develop and scale. So I don't think it's so much that there's clicks or I mean, I still think it's a large community. It's a worldwide, obviously, but I think it's a smaller space than people think.
And so if VeChain and Cosmos were two of the companies you thought had good branding presence at the conference, what would you say were the main sort of like topics at the events? What are people talking about?
So I wasn't at the actual consensus events. I just went to, like I said, the parties after.
You got the
Just because that's
VIP.
where, yeah, the VIP parties. That's where all the ballers hang out. You know, that's where you got to go. You can't just. I didn't have time, honestly, to be listening to the conference talks. But from what I've heard and what I've written about in the bit from other reporters is that there was a lot of interesting topics that were brought up. For example, FedEx announced that they were working on a blockchain arm to really just streamline a lot of their processes. And again, I don't want to speak for consensus. I wasn't there. But I heard there was a lot of interesting topics this year. I also heard that it was very, very packed. So it's cool to see that consensus has been growing year over year. In the past, actually, the history is that after consensus, a lot of the coins have an uptick, so they go up in value. So I'm very curious to look at my portfolio after consensus because there's going to be a lot of news articles that go out.
That's interesting. Yeah. What is your sort of take on investing in crypto?
That's a very broad question.
Well, there's two parts of it. So, first of all, it's like, do you hold a lot of different altcoins? How are you evaluating those? Are you trading? Are you hodling? Whatever. But the second part, and I asked this kind of like, doing a podcast as a member of the media, how you sort of address that. Because it's kind of like we get to form the norms, right, in this industry and how we are reporting on it and talking about it and also investing in it.
Yeah, and I guess there's two questions there. The first question, what are my thoughts on investing? I really think it depends on what you're investing in, right? I personally invest in usually the top 30 coins consistently and keep adding to my portfolio. So I do have a pretty diverse portfolio, not as diverse as a lot of like big daytime traders out there or funds per se. But I do think that I'm in, I would say, the top tier of people that actually understand how to trade. So for me, I will hold on to basically like the Litecoin, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of Ripple, like any of the major ones. Some of the smaller ones, I'll trade more often, depending on what kind of happens. So that's my perspective on investing. There's really no one size fits all to a particular project or token or company or coin.
Before we go to the second part of that, so it's like what are the main criteria that people will say, oh, I look at the team, I read the white paper. Like what's the kind of internal criteria that you have to evaluate a coin you might invest in or might not?
I think it's just that you really have to understand their white paper. The white paper, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the white paper could be bullshit. But in the ends of things, if you know what's happening in the space, which is the point of the bit again, to stay updated, if you know the things that are going on, you can tell what's basically fake news and what's not. And a lot of it is talking to other people, like going to the community and saying, hey, what do you think about this? I'm in more than like 1,000 Telegram groups. Most of them are muted, I must say, but talking about, hey, I just read this white paper. What do you guys think? And getting the community's opinion on it. Finding friends that are smarter than you. Be the dumbest person in the room. I love doing that. I love introducing new things and saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? To people that are way more brilliant than me and kind of seeing what their thoughts are and learning from them. And that's what the bit is. It's learning from other people that are smarter than you. Or maybe you're teaching someone that is coming up in the space. And it's all about helping each other out and finding what's real. So that's what I suggest.
Yeah. So it's an interesting combination of just knowing, being smart, knowing the space, learning, but then talking to people and getting their opinion and then having that filter. And then how about the second part of the question? How are you sort of, as a member of the media, what are your beliefs in terms of best practices as we move forward in this space for transparency and that kind of stuff in investing?
I think transparency is everything. I think adding transparency into something complex is very, very valuable. For partnerships, revenue, for the bit specifically, going back to what you were saying, like a lot of companies want to advertise, and it's interesting because right now Facebook banned advertising, Google has banned advertising, Snapchat has banned advertising for the cryptocurrency space in general. So where are these companies that are trying to grow supposed to do? They're looking to Reddit, they're looking to newsletters like us to really spread the word to a very niche community. And for us, the bit, that's about curating those companies. If a company, or let's say there's an ICO that wants to advertise on that bit and we don't believe in it, obviously we're not going to take their money and spread it to our community of people that we really believe in and are trying to help learn or trying to keep updated and trying to inspire overall. So I think it's really about curating the companies as either an advertiser or a news source, such as yourself. So transparency is very, very important to say, hey, we're advertising this brand not just because we're paying us, but really because we believe in them. And those are only the partnerships that I'm making personally.
All right, let's move on to this topic. So I started this podcast honestly because I wanted to learn about the blockchain, and so it was like, well, how do you learn about something these days? You start a podcast, and it's been an amazing opportunity to just interview people and ask questions. And I'm finding the more I learn, the more questions I have, which is kind of like anything that's complex like this. What are the topics for you in the blockchain, cryptocurrency, that you think are really interesting, but you're realizing you've got to learn a lot more about them?
I would say anything to do with actually developing or scaling a platform. For example, I try to go to as many New York events as possible around just building up blockchain, different types of companies. So for example, BitDevs is one of them that I tried to attend in New York. For me, it's extremely hard to understand because they're all developers in the room. They're all talking about how to code a certain way, how to fix certain problems, etc. Right? And for me, it's more of, I'm not going to learn how to code, but I'm going to learn how they're speaking. I'm going to try to understand to my best ability what they're trying to do so I can understand the problems in the space and I can talk about the problems in the space. Will I be able to solve them? No, probably not, but that's their job. I'm here to try to basically put everything in layman's terms to people that don't understand it. So that's something that I don't feel really comfortable in right now. I'm very comfortable with trading things. I think I understand what each project does, but I'm still having trouble figuring out basically the more development side of things, which is where my friends come in handy because they have a lot of software development experience and just overall are OG people in the space.
One of my favorite interviews that we did was with Ross Nichols, one of the Dogecoin dev core guys. And God, it was so informative, and I was so curious and getting all these questions answered. At the end of the day, I was like, I don't know if any of that really is going to matter for me, but it's super interesting. And it kind of goes to the whole question of like, most people have no idea how the internet works, but they're still, making money off of it and that kind of thing. Like what would you, for people that are out there that are, just getting involved, maybe they just subscribe to the bit, what do you think are the ways to the best ways to kind of like learn about this space?
I would say find a news source that's trustworthy. Find something that you understand and follow it. Create a schedule, a routine for yourself. Another thing is, like I said, and I can't stress this enough, make friends with the community around you. Go to these meetups, go to events that help explain everything. There's now more and more universities even offering courses in specifically blockchain technology. So find these resources and really plug into them, dedicate yourself to them. And if it's too complex, take a step back and try to think, okay, where's the root of the problem? Where am I not understanding things? So I would say just try to get plugged in as much as possible and you'll learn. For example, we have a huge resource guide on the bit that basically outlines like, what are all the exchanges? What are all the portfolio trackers? What are software development tools? What are really cool ICO trackers. So we have a bunch of resources for people to use and start learning from the get-go. So find resources like that to help you.
Have you got a take on what the SEC is doing, and sort of if you were to advise any sort of new ICOs these days, what are their best guidelines for them to be successful?
I mean, the best guideline is to really keep the SEC updated, honestly. The SEC right now is really trying to find a way to curate and vet all of the ICOs, all of the companies coming into the space. So I would say, like, from a company's perspective, if they have a meeting with the SEC and says, like, this is what we're trying to do, this is XYZ, this is our white paper, you have to go through a ton of legal barriers as well. I'm not 100% versed in all of the legal kind of jargon in the space. I keep up with, okay, this is feasible, this is not feasible, this is what's happening regulation wise. This conference just happened in DC to talk about how to reduce and actually like make a decision and not be such a gray area. But when it comes to regulation, transparency, like you said, is really key, as well as keeping everyone around you updated on what you're doing, and overall just not being a scam, right?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's gotten such a bad name, like you're saying, with Facebook banning all crypto stuff. I've gone back and forth in my own opinion of, like, early on we had some people like Miko Matsumura and Jackson Palmer on the podcast who were just talking about how it was really good to have the SEC stepping up and getting involved to really help regulate this. But I go back and forth. So what about this argument though, where, I mean, I get it. They're protecting people that are going to just fall for some dumb scams. Like, I don't know if you saw, you probably did, the SEC put up this fake website called howiecoins.com. And it's like everything to do that's stupid. And I don't know. I mean, at what point do you just, like, a fool's born every minute or whatever that cliche is. At what point do you let people make mistakes and lose their money and, not have regulations slow things down? I mean, it seems like there are advantages in other countries. That's what the U.S. are having. And I see a lot of ICOs limiting participation to, not excluding U.S. citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the person you interviewed is right. I think the SEC coming into the ICO blockchain industry space is really important, because that means people are paying attention, people are adopting it. And there's been tons of rulings, right? The DAO invited people to buy tokens that would be used to pursue basically an automated investment strategy and entitle the token owners to receive rewards. And it's no surprise that, like, the SEC concluded that the tokens were securities. So I think that there's a lot of rulings, there's a lot of reactions from industry experts that tell you that the regulations that are happening are good regulations. And some will say, no, they're not, it's supposed to be decentralized, blah, blah, blah. But if the SEC is getting involved, it means it's important enough to be involved. So it's really interesting.
All right. So The Bit, folks, thebitdaily.com is how you subscribe. Erica, what would you say if you're going through, are there some examples of news stories that you saw come up on, Reddit, and you thought about including them, but you didn't, like, just to help us understand the criteria of what you choose to report on and not report on?
Yeah, I mean, I usually report on the biggest stories. So I report on a lot of funding. If a project such as Circle, for example, just got a huge round of funding, I report on that because our biggest audience are investors. They're investors in the space, or they're wannabe investors. So they want to know what's being invested in. So what I don't report on is, I usually don't report so much on ICOs unless they're a very notable ICO. I usually report on big companies in the space, such as FedEx, such as USPS, or Google, or Facebook, or Indiegogo, that are actually leading the space of blockchain and trying to incorporate it into their company. So I report on that. I report on if Overstock, for example, put in a ton of money into Ravencoin. So it's like stuff like that I would report on, because that's a very minimal coin for someone to put huge amount of money in. So I look for articles that I think investors would really enjoy, and I cut out the articles that are like, Bitcoin is now at 8,000, Bitcoin is now at 10,000, Bitcoin is now at 9,000. Like those stories, you can't, I don't want people to be caught up in watching it every single day, because you really should be holding this. What you should be tracking is, what are companies out there investing in? How are they actually making progress in this space? What are regulations all over the world looking like? And so that's the kind of stories that we find.
So what's coming up for the Bit? Tell us about this new platform you guys are building.
Yeah, so right now, if you go to our site, thebitdaily.com, you'll find guides, you'll find interviews with industry experts, you'll find you can sign up for the newsletter and get really updated and actually follow what's going on in the space. But come next month, we're actually launching a community platform. So it's going to curate the best companies, the best projects in the space, and it'll allow the community to upvote them and find what those projects are. And it'll also condense their white paper, so you don't have to read you still should read like the 10 pages of white paper, but if you don't want to, it'll condense it in about a paragraph or two. And you can kind of start a conversation around it. So it'll kind of be like a product hunt, but specifically for cryptocurrency and blockchain.
So with the white paper piece, are you guys going to be kind of like doing what you do with the newsletter, where you kind of do the bit and then also giving like the big picture where it's a little bit of analysis, or will you just trying to summarize it? Okay, so you're going to be doing interesting. So how do you? I mean. So that could, for some folks, be like almost a guide to what to invest in.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh.
And a lot of investors are very interested, and hedge funds are very interested in potentially curating deal flow and trying to find companies that are really gaining traction fast. So it's actually that's a huge point of contendency.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep tuned in, and I hope to have you back on. We're going to keep using the Bit as kind of like our intro to kind of keep us relevant and newsworthy. And if you want to come back on and discuss some news items or what's next, we'd love to have you. And so is what's going on tonight? Are you going out for some consensus conference party stuff tonight?
Well, there's an Ethereum yacht party tonight, so that's
Ethereum
happening.
Yacht party.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll call us at like midnight and tell us how it's going.
Will do.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Erica. Anything else? Hey, if people want to, I guess they've got your URL. We'll put that in the show notes. If they want to, get a hold of you or anything, is it just the website, or is there anything else you want to share? Twitter or whatever?
Yeah, you guys can add me at Erica Amatori. It's just my name across Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. My website's also ericaamatori.com. So feel free to add me on all the social medias.
Awesome. Well, have fun tonight, and thank you so much for being on Coloring Crypto.
Thank you so much, Gabe.
All right. We'll talk to you later, Erica. Bye.
Bye.